In contrast to the Old Testament, the New Testament is famous for promoting sweet concepts like righteousness and love, and a fairly unnatural response to being victimized. Namely, you're supposed to turn your cheek and love your enemy. But Kurt Verbeek, who's the subject of my book, and a theologian he studied with named Nicholas Waltersdorf, challenged that interpretation. They think it's flawed. We got to talk about linguistics a little bit to understand why. So the Old Testament was originally written in Hebrew and Aramaic, whereas the Greek Testament was originally written in Greek. Now, the word justice appears all the time in English translations of the Old Testament, but very rarely in English translations of the New Testament. So that's part of what contributes to the sense that the New Testament is not really about justice, retribution. That's Old Testament stuff. Kurt and his mentor Waltersdorf point out is that the Greek words dikaios and dikaiosune, which appear hundreds of times in the New Testament, are typically translated as righteous and righteousness. But when the scripture was actually penned, those words could also mean just and justice. And actually, that's how they are translated in Aristotle's and Plato's works. What they did is sort of went through the Bible and looked at these various instances of dikaios and dikaiosune and argued that in many cases, justice is the superior translation. So in their view, the New Testament is much more justice-y than most people think. And even on a moment as famous as the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus proclaims, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice." Another thing that they like to point to is the passage where the quizzical lawyer asks Jesus, what is the essence of the law? And Jesus doesn't just refer to the Old Testament, he actually quotes Leviticus 19. And that's the one where they say you should love your neighbor, and where preceding that is a long list of ways you can love your neighbor. And on that list is, if your neighbor does something wrong, you shall reprove him, you shall punish him, you shall administer justice to him. So in their view, justice can be an act of love. And all in all, they just believe that the New Testament and Christianity and Jesus' teachings are way more about justice than most people do.